to create more problems than it raises, I think.
Ryan's referring to what's being said on the Facebook page for the Rotorua residents and ratepayers. I quote, "Residents and ratepayers in Te Tonga and other suburbs are suffering from noise, parking, overcrowding, behaviour problems. Council's B&B regulations are obsolete. Resource consents are required but are not being enforced. Family peace, child safety, community security, traffic rules, social norms being violated, creating misery. Community values clashing with entrepreneurial business values, local governance lagging behind in its duty to regulate behaviours in the public good."
I think that's one issue that we've got, that innovations and all this disruption is moving so fast that regulators are struggling to keep up with it, and they've got to keep ahead of the game and be aware of some of the innovations that are going on in all sorts of different spaces. It's similar kind of conversations around Uber as well. But I think it would cause an uproar if they over-regulated it, because, there's lots of Kiwis who are, cashing in on the whole Airbnb.
Well, indeed there are. We were going to talk to Reynold McPherson from Rotorua Residents and Ratepayers because this topic was raised today, we understand, at the annual planning discussion in the council chambers, which was behind closed doors. But the other, that is a fairly grim picture being painted on that Facebook page. But Airbnb stays around the country, you would think, go off without a hitch in most places.
Well, you never hear it. This seems like an extreme position in this particular area. Why would tourists want to create all this nuisance? They just want a bed for the night. They want a friendly person to advise them on what to see, and then they're off again. And
it's transparent too, because there's the feedback, online feedback all the time, so you can actually people who stay at Airbnbs want to behave. People who provide Airbnbs want to provide the best, because there's a feedback mechanism for it all, so it sort of manages itself in some respects.
Did right. Did I hear self-regulation there rather than regulation?
Yes.
What's that golden phrase again, Neville? This interesting conclusion on hot desking from an academic at a British university after 3 years of research. Hot desking is when companies save money by not giving you a desk of your own. Well, that's not how they describe it. But you have to find one each day when you arrive, and it's claimed to result in a more dynamic environment, directing our attention away from the mundane and onto problem solving and innovation.
I was curious if NBR hot desk did.
Definitely
hot desk?
Not. If you find someone at your desk, it's really bad news. And understand in other media organisations that have tried this, it's not too popular either.
What do you think is it humiliating, would you think, for a man at your august stage in life, if it happened to you, having to traipse around carrying your work bag and your umbrella and your lunch?
I wouldn't be allowed to have a Valentine's Day plant on my desk. Would I have to keep moving it around? And who would water it if I wasn't there?
That's right. These are relevant considerations. So, Kaz, you've never been a fan of it either?
I love it. Absolutely love it. Yep. No, I'm a total advocate of it. I've been at the third organisation I've worked in where we hot desk. It's really good if you're working on projects. You sit with the people that you're working with. It also, you get, it's all those sort of informal conversations that you overhear, etc. The other thing is that, yes, you don't have plants and things because you have a clear desk and you clear it all out at the end of the day, so you don't have loads and loads of stuff. It's brilliant. I love it.
You are part of the new workforce, Kaz Carter. Thank you for being on the panel today.
Thank you. It's lovely to be back.
Neville Gibson, nice to have your company as well.
Thanks, Jim, as always.
The latest from Christchurch coming right up. Thanks for your company, everybody. Checkpoint with John Campbell now.
Kia ora everyone. Tonight on Checkpoint there really is chaos in Christchurch. Fires are continuing to burn. The direction has been changing throughout the afternoon as the wind has shifted. People are being evacuated. We will go there live. We will be at an evacuation centre. We'll speak to a family who have lost their home and another family who had an incredibly near miss. The Chief of Army, Major General Peter Kelly, joins us to pay tribute to a helicopter pilot, Steve Askin, who lost his life fighting the fires yesterday. The Pike River families are in a meeting with Prime Minister Bill English as we speak, and they will join us live afterwards. All of that and much more on Checkpoint after the 5 o'clock news.
RNZ News at 5. Kia ora, good afternoon. Ko Katrina Bat and aho. The police are evacuating thousands of people from their homes below Christchurch's Port Hills. They say a fire is coming down the hills in the Worsley's Road area. The road and the streets intersecting with it are being evacuated because of a worrying wind shift. The authorities are also evacuating people in Early Valley Road and some areas of Westmoreland and Craycroft. An evacuation centre has been set up at Pioneer Stadium to deal with the thousands of people leaving their homes. Worsley Road is closed from Cashmere Road to all members of the public. The police say residents may be permitted access but will need to report to officers at the cordons. And Hoon Hay Road has been closed because people trying to see the fire are getting in the way of emergency services. The Selwyn District's Principal Fire Officer, Douglas Marshall, says their priority is ensuring people are safe.
No dwellings impacted at this stage. Resources were being moved into those areas to provide dwelling protection. Our priorities again are life, that's obviously critical, and then dwelling protection is key.
Douglas Marshall. Among those evacuated is Worsley's Road resident Vicky Flam, who was told to get out of her home near the Christchurch Adventure Park about 2 hours ago. She grabbed photos and essentials while her builder husband's staff took business files. She says the whole street has been evacuated. She says flames are all through the top of the park area and around its new gondola. Meanwhile, the government has paid tribute to the helicopter pilot who died while fighting the fires in the Port Hills. David Askin's chopper crashed yesterday afternoon. The former SAS member from Waimakariri was 38. The Defence Minister, Jerry Brownlee, says the country shares his family's sadness.
This guy is one of New Zealand's heroes, no doubt about that. For him to have lost his life trying to save other lives, as he effectively was, is, I guess, a bit of a metaphor for the whole life that he's lived. So a great New Zealander, a tragic death.
Jerry Brownlee, the Defence Minister. The police and the Civil Aviation Authority are investigating the crash. The Social Development Minister says beneficiaries shouldn't be turned away from work and income officers if they don't have identification. In mid-January, the agency began requiring clients to present identification at the door as a security measure. A beneficiary advocate, Kay Brereton, says she's been told 21 people have so far been turned away for not having ID, but she suspects the true number is higher. The Social Development Minister, Anne Tolley, says that shouldn't be happening.
No, it isn't appropriate. I wrote to every Member of Parliament and explained what the protocols would be as they were rolled out across the country, and asked anyone to come to me if they heard of that sort of thing happening.
Anne Tolley says she's given clear instructions that people who come to work and income needing help should not be turned away. Pressure is mounting on the government to make a blanket apology for the historic abuse of children in state care. This week, a Canadian court found the government there breached its duty of care to thousands of Aboriginal children when it removed them from their communities nearly 2 decades ago. The chair of Whānau Order's commissioning agency, Te Pou Matakana, Meripeka Raukawa-Tate, says there are similarities with New Zealand. She says the government needs to publicly apologise to the thousands of children who suffered in its care. The Māori Party could walk away from its support deal with National if it can't force changes to new child protection legislation. The current law gives priority to placing a child with a member of their family or wider hapu, and if that's not possible, then to someone with the same tribal, racial or cultural background as the child. New legislation, part of the overhaul of Child, Youth and Family, removes that priority and instead puts emphasis on the child's safety. The Māori Party co-leader, Marama Fox, says that could create another stolen generation. She said she would walk in support of children any day over any other issue, including the Kermadex. It's 4.5 minutes past 5. To sport, and the National Rugby League has cleared the way for Kieran Foran to play for the Warriors, but he must pass another psychological assessment before being able to take the field. The NRL has registered Foran's contract, meaning he's officially a member of the Warriors squad. Sports editor Stephen Hewson explains.
Kieran Foran signed a one-year deal with the Warriors in September, but the NRL refused to register the contract after a troubled 2016 campaign with Parramatta. The NRL has said that Foran can play from round 3 this year as long as the psychological assessment confirms he's ready to play. The NRL's chief executive, Todd Greenberg, and the Warriors managing director, Jim Doyle, say they've worked closely over the past 4 months on a rehabilitation program to help Foran overcome gambling problems, which saw him drop out of the game last year. Foran says he's delighted his contract has been registered, although he'd like to play in the club's season opener on March the 5th. This is Stephen Hewson.
The rookie Black Caps batsman Glenn Phillips says his call-up to the New Zealand 2020 side came out of the blue, but he's looking forward to the challenge of playing his country of birth, South Africa. The 20-year-old Aucklander will replace the injured Martin Guptill in the side for the one-off T20 game against the visitors at Eden Park on Friday. Phillips, who moved to New Zealand with his family when he was 5, says there's been no undue pressure placed on him by Black Caps coach Mike Hesson, who's urged him not to complicate his batting style. And the New Zealand women's hockey team have bounced back from their first-up loss to Argentina with a 1-0 win in the second test in Buenos Aires. That's the news.
Tonight on Nights, Alex Rosenblatt talks about the online taxi service Uber and the future of work, where everyone's a customer. Sounds like utopia, and that's the problem. We have a window on the world of Real Madrid, the world's most valuable football club, and Motoko Kakubayashi is on the line from Japan, talking about dodging dodgy handshakes, exam stress, and mask addiction. All on Nights with me, Brian Crump, after the news at 7 on RNZ National.
Met Service weather through to midnight tomorrow. Northland, scattered rain, more widespread with heavy falls possible from tonight. Auckland and Coromandel, scattered rain developing late afternoon. Rain becoming widespread tomorrow morning with heavy falls possible. Bay of Plenty, Gisborne and Hawke's Bay, mainly fine today. Isolated showers about the ranges this afternoon and evening. Widespread rain developing tomorrow. Waikato to Taranaki, including Taumarunui, Taupo and Taihape, fine today with high cloud. Rain spreading south tomorrow morning with heavy falls possible, especially in the west. Whanganui to Wellington and Wairarapa, mostly fine today. High cloud thickening tomorrow, bringing rain to Whanganui, Manawatu and the Tararua district late in the day. For Fiordland and Southland, showers about the fjords and the south coast, becoming confined to the fjords tomorrow morning, then clearing later, fine elsewhere. And sadly for the rest of the South Island, which probably needs a bit more rain than it is now, and the Chatham Islands, mostly fine. It's 5:05, and you're listening to Checkpoint.
Thanks, Katrina. Thousands of people are being evacuated from areas on and around Christchurch's Port Hills after wind shifts this afternoon saw the largest fire flare up again, change direction and move back towards the city, and in some areas new fuel sources, including a large number of pine trees. The police are now warning that the fire is coming down the mountain, and authorities are evacuating residents in what could be its path. Early Valley Road, Westmoreland and Cracroft are areas of evacuation. An evacuation centre has been set up at Pioneer Stadium on Littleton Street to deal with the people leaving their homes or unable to return to them after school or work. Our reporter Ian Telfer is there. We will cross to Ian live shortly. And tens of thousands of Christchurch properties also lost power this afternoon, although it has been restored to most of them. Douglas Marshall is the Selwyn Principal Rural Fire Officer. He's on the line now. Douglas, good to have you back with us. It's chaos there tonight, isn't it?
It's challenging, no doubt about that. I think you described it quite well. The Morley Hill fire, which is around the radio antennas at the top of Dice Pass, not far from Kennedy's Bush, sign of the Kiwi. What's happened there is the wind's gone from northwest to southwest, now real north for the last 24 hours, has brought the fire back into new stuff to be burnt. So it's sort of almost going around in a circle. So, yeah, it's very challenging, very challenging.
How are you going fighting it? I've heard that there have been trouble with the choppers because the smoke is so thick and black and all-encompassing. Have you got them up at the moment?
Yeah, the choppers are above me at the moment, doing their job. There's no doubt that smoke makes it challenging, but one of the really key things to understand is that why we're so careful with helicopters is that this is dangerous work, and therefore they have a known preset circuit that they're going in before they dump their water. So they follow very rigorous plans to make sure they can keep fighting, even when it becomes challenging conditions like this one now.
Yeah, it's such a dynamic situation that people don't really know what's going on. And one, people want to look, which is a natural thing to do. And two, people want to try and return to their homes. What are the areas you would really like people to keep clear of?
Yeah, certainly Early Valley Road is very challenging right now at the moment.
and Wolseley Spur is also equally a bit challenging. People should, to be fair, there are quite good views on State Highway 75, but I also don't want people too far out there because they start to clog the roads. So, get off the road, if there's appliances coming through. Really, people are concerned about their welfare. Self-evacuation is a good thing, and you gave the Pioneer Stadium is where they should go. So, just keep informed police and fire in the area, as well as military if needed to help if we decide to formalise evacuation.
Yeah, Douglas, we've spoken to a couple of people. I really can't stress how quickly, and obviously you're there and you know it so well, how quickly the flames can change direction. So your message to people is very explicit, isn't it? If you have any concerns at all and you think you may potentially end up in the fire path, get out.
That's exactly right. You get one crack at life and you've got to treat that absolutely with, precious. And, it may sound flippant and unfair, but it is a house that can be rebuilt. Just make the right calls and follow your police and fire, the decision making. They're experts at this. Just do what they say.
Okay, thank you, Douglas. I know you've got to go. One final question. You have got a lot of firefighters working, and they've been working very hard, and some of them have been working for a lot of hours now. How are they all going?
Yeah, they're doing a sterling job. As I said a couple of times over the last few days, this is a risky business, but there's people buy into it, and they do it because they want to serve their community. It's also important to know that there are resources, fresh resources available to be committed. So we're not short of resources, and we've got great offers, from around parts of the South Island, also from the North Island. So. It's just a matter of making use of the resources we've got and rotating them appropriately to get the most effective firefighting available.
Douglas, good to talk to you. Douglas Marshall is the Selwyn Principal Rural Fire Officer and doing a great job of keeping everyone updated on what's going on. It's hard sometimes to explain how fast those flames can move and change direction, but people around the communities of Lansdowne, Taitapu, parts of Hallswell and Kennedy's Bush can certainly tell you. 2 properties on Early Valley Road were razed to the ground. Denise McKenzie, a neighbour of the homes that were lost, saw the flames come so close to her home that she lost fences, trees and her garden. Earlier this afternoon we called to talk to Denise about what had happened. We kept getting cut off, but during the phone call, or series of phone calls as you'll hear, Denise's husband Kenneth took the phone to tell us the wind had just changed direction and the flames had begun to turn back towards them. We begin with Denise and how close the flames had got to them on their previous passage through.
Oh, very close. Like the end of our house was burnt and anything wooden has gone, but the house itself is fine, which is miraculous because it's got a ring of fire right round it, really. So there's one house above us, or 2 houses above us that have gone completely.
And did you see the fire go through?
Oh, yeah. I was at home and it just came up the hill, so had to get out, really. Do you want to talk to my husband? He just wants to have a...
I'd love to, Denise. If he's there, that'd be fantastic.
You there?
Hello? Ken, it's John Campbell from Radio New Zealand. How are you?
Oh, look. It's pretty tough, mate. Just want to let you know that the wind has changed. It's changed around to northeast. It's just taking out the forestry along Kennedy's Bush track. That means the wind is blowing in. There's quite a massive, I'm not sure, 11K pylons that go up Kennedy's Bush to the Summit Road and through there. The fire is very savage. And it's coming down the valley and it's going to come across into the macro.
Are you there, Ken?
I can't answer it.
Ken, it's John again. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm back again.
I'm so sorry. I know.
We're quite concerned that this is going to now take out the other side of Early Valley Road.
Right. So is it coming back towards you? Has it looped around?
That's correct. The wind has changed to northeast and it's coming back towards our house.
That is how dynamic the situation has been in Christchurch this afternoon. Kenneth McKenzie with an insight into how quickly and dramatically the fire changed direction. We want to stress the McKenzies are okay. They were evacuated not long after that call, but their neighbour, Phil Claude, has lost everything. His wife and daughter were home as the fire came roaring towards them. No one realised how fast it was moving or in which direction. Here's what happened as Phil realised what was going on.
Well, I'd left a friend's place where I'd been working. When I left his driveway, I looked straight up into the valley, Meanstown Valley, and I could see big plumes of smoke, and decided I wouldn't go to the supermarket to pick up some stuff that I'd promised to pick up, like dog food. Instead headed quickly down the road at breakneck speed and went into Early Valley, which is a sealed road, and then got on our shingle road, which is a bit of a ghost track, and started heading up the hill. And I got up as far as Denise and Ken McKenzie's place, and there was too much heat, and I sort of felt a bit unsafe, and I didn't actually at that time know whether or not Katie and the kids were at home because I hadn't been able to contact them. So I backed down and got into a spot where I could call, and eventually I got hold of Katie. I said, "Whereabouts?" She said, "We're at home." And I said, "You need to get out of there. We're sort of about 3 k's further back into the valley." And I could see that the smoke and the flames were all just being blown right up towards our house. And I just yelled at her, "Get out, get out," and told her where to run to, which is down the sort of grass track that's maintained by another neighbour. So her and my daughter Ruby, who was at home at the time, and our ageing dog, all managed to flee down the grass track to an area where there are waterfalls, and I entered the valley from the other side, which was opposite to the direction that the flames were all going in, where I grabbed them and we got out, and that was it. We didn't really know what was going on because there was so much smoke, we couldn't sort of tell what was burning and what wasn't. So, but yesterday morning we were able to go up, and having been told that our place was apparently singed, found that it was burnt to the ground.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you've lost your home. But how fantastic that everyone, got out. That they must have been the most terrifying minutes.
Yeah, it was particularly scary for my daughter.
Yeah. But she's fine, right? I mean, fine is a relative term. You've lost your home and she's lost all her stuff, but she's in one piece, isn't she?
Yeah, that's right. That's the main thing.
Yeah, by God it is. And those flames just must have been moving like a train, were they?
Well, they were, because Katie called back at one stage, said, "I think we'll head further up the hill." And I said, no, just get out, run down. Like, they had to go down to the bottom of the valley, or otherwise, I don't think they would have outrun much, and I wasn't sure that they could actually get out onto the summit road from the next property up. So,
I don't. If you're in Australia, if you're in Victoria, you understand how fast flames move, but I don't think we really comprehended in New Zealand that they can move like that, especially with that nor'wester in Christchurch.
Yeah, well, that's right. We've got a local neighbourhood fire team, and they'd actually been up around everyone's properties the week before, sort of assessing the capabilities and seeing where water was stored and what have you. And when I went to go through this property to go and round up Katie and Ruby and the dog, the guy's property it is, Andy, he was leaving his Toyota with a little wee single axle trailer with a water tanker on the back of it, and I said, "Andy, you haven't got a shit show." And anyway, he carried on and I carried on, and when I was coming back with Katie and Rube, I saw Andy coming back. He said, "Oh, it's just too big."
Yeah.
So, no one, the local fire team no one really sort of realised quite what was going on and how quickly it was all happening.
Yeah,
It just got whipped along by the wind, and it was so dry.
I can hear the wind now. Are you insured? Tell me you're insured.
Oh, yeah, probably should have had a bit more, but anyway, you can only do what you can afford. But yeah.
And I understand wonderful friends have started to give a little for you already.
Yeah, well, I believe so. I haven't sort of had much chance to. Yeah, we're just sort of at the moment just trying to, get socks on our feet and clean underwear on and real basic stuff, buy a toothbrush.
Bloody hell.
So anyone out there who might be listening, you know, make sure you get your family photos all digitised and safely deposited in the cloud somewhere or something. We didn't have time to get anything.
It was Phil Claude who really was caught by how fast those flames were moving. Fortunately, whilst they lost their home, which is obviously terrible, Katie, Ruby and the dog were able to get out. They are all safe now. Really, one moment they weren't in the fire line at all. The next moment, they were losing their home. This just in from the police in Christchurch. There are further evacuations underway due to the ongoing fire risk and the erratic path that it may take. Houses on Kennedy's Bush Road and its intersection streets are being evacuated from Hallswell Quarry, which I guess is at the northern end, up towards the end of Kennedy's Bush Road. So if you're in that area and you are listening to the radio, get out. And if you are travelling to that area, don't go there. Residents should leave their homes immediately and head to the Pioneer Recreation Centre for further information. I think we'll go to the Pioneer Recreation Centre now, where our reporter Ian Telfer is going to join us live. Ian, are you there?
Yes, I am, John. Yes, I'm standing on the field at the Pioneer Centre out the front.
Right. How many people have come there? Because it's still early, isn't it? And lots of people in Christchurch will have friends and family they can go to. How many people are there?
That's right. Not many, John, yet. I can count about 2 dozen people standing on this field here, and no one is officially sort of in the welfare centre upstairs at the Pioneer Centre yet, when I was just there 3 minutes ago. So I'd say this is very early days. The people standing here, though, are standing on a grass field out the front of the stadium, and they are looking right onto this fire. There is a massive band of fire and smoke pouring out of the hill above the grass field. And so people are standing here, sitting with their friends with dogs, and they've got binoculars, or they're just standing here absolutely dumbstruck by what they're seeing. The smoke is just pouring over the hills. The flames are very visible, and there are, I can see 2 helicopters working busily, dropping water on there, but that's nothing compared with the size of this fire.
And I guess if you're at the evacuation centre and you are looking back towards the flames, they are somewhere near where you live, right?
I would think so. I mean, those people are only just beginning to come down, I would say. And it's not clear through the smoke, you know, how close it is to houses. I can certainly see pine trees, and there are houses dotted in there, but I can't see fire next to houses, you know, exactly. So I can't say from here how close they are, but I would say I can see why there's a threat, because that fire is coming down the hill pretty fast. And I would say, John, that the wind is really picking up here. I mean, I'm having to stand underneath a tree just to, you know, so that you'd be able to hear me out of the wind but the northwesterly, gosh, it's really cracking now, and I think that's the big problem.
Yeah, it's the last thing Christchurch needs right now, that nor'wester, because it's strong and it's dry. Thanks, Ian. So Ian is at the Pioneer Stadium Evacuation Centre. Now, lots of people, if you were listening in your cars in Christchurch and you're wondering where to go, will have somewhere to go, friends or family or somewhere local. But if you do need somewhere to go because you are not able to return to your home, or if you are leaving your home, you are most welcome at the Pioneer Stadium, and you will be looked after there. Our reporter Maya Burry is at the Early Valley Road evacuation cordon point. A couple of homes have been lost on Early Valley Road. There may be more losses of property there because the flames in some parts of the road have returned. Maya, are you there?
I am, John.
Hi, what can you describe? Because there will be people who have no idea what's happening to their properties, right, at that cordon point.
Oh, yes, John. It honestly just feels like utter chaos here. And I think people on Early Valley Road, this is obviously where a fire started on Monday evening. I think they thought they were out of it, and now it seems like the attention's really turned back onto this area, and there are, huge billows of smoke coming really nearby. The whole sky just looks completely white, and, there's people standing at this cordon, and they're just exhausted and stressed, and, they're just, it's just a really tense mood here.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And also you would have thought that all the fuel had gone right around their homes. But in fact, the fire seems to be able to find new fuel through there. There's some pine trees not far away, and people are standing at the cordon with absolutely no idea what's happening to their properties.
Yeah, that's right. There's a woman whose home is right near this cordon. She just ran out of the house onto the road and said,
you guys need to radio someone, the flames are coming right near here. And she was just in sheer panic. And there's other people standing at the cordon, saying they've got horses and paddocks nearby, and there's been a number of people leading horses out past the cordon, getting to safer ground. And, people here are really, really stressed. And another man described the flames like a hurricane coming towards their house. So, just absolute chaos here. And, people really are, I think, pretty over it. They thought they were out of it, and this just keeps on happening. And, they're getting pretty tired, I think.
Yeah, Maya Bari live from the Early Valley Road evacuation cordon point. So we do want to stress, if that is where your home is or you transit through Early Valley Road, please don't go there. And if you are in any doubt whatsoever about whether your home is safe, do remember what Douglas said to us earlier, the fire chief, when in doubt, get out. It's 5:25. The helicopter pilot who yesterday lost his life fighting the fires in Christchurch was a decorated and celebrated member of the New Zealand Army. Steve Askin enlisted in 1998. In 2011, he was with the SAS in Afghanistan when he was part of a widely reported action to reclaim a hotel in the capital from Taliban forces. He returned to New Zealand into civilian life, but he didn't cut all ties with the Army. Chief of Army, Major General Peter Kelly, joined us to tell us a bit about the Steve Askin they knew and loved.
Steve was a great soldier, and his loss will be felt deeply. Of course, his family, it's absolutely terrible. Steve's the sort of person you'd think would live to 100. He had that sort of energy. And so his family and his children, this is an absolute tragedy. But, it's not surprising with Steve that this is the sort of thing he is. The way he does service to the community, his service to the Army, his service to New Zealand. In a job like this, he'd be the first person to put his hand up.
Mm. He won a New Zealand Gallantry Star, which I think is that's high, isn't it? How far up the chain is that?
It's just below Victoria Cross.
Right. Okay. So that's
incredibly high.
Yeah. And I'm reading the citation, and outstanding gallantry on several occasions in Afghanistan in 2011. So this was more than one incident.
Yeah, the citation refers to 3 incidents, but the one that he was photographed was perhaps the one that's reasonably well known, was the action in and around the Hotel Intercontinental in 2011.
In Kabul?
Yeah. And look, I can characterise that as that was a tough fight. And when you see that photo and you look at him and you look into his eyes and you just see him physically, you just look at it and you say, that was a hell of a fight, that one. And it was. He was incredibly lucky, as was the rest of that team. But their ability to respond, their ability to help the crisis response unit, who they were mentoring and training, when they came up against a particularly determined group of insurgents and Taliban, was instrumental. His leadership and actions that day were instrumental in winning that particular battle.
And actually saving a lot of lives, right? Because as I recall it, and I'm hoping my memory serves me correctly, the Taliban came in, they got through the security guards, the hotel was on fire, part of the hotel was on fire, wasn't it?
That's right. They'd already, the Taliban had seized control of the hotel, they'd killed a number of the guests, people were holed up in their rooms, the Taliban themselves had spread throughout the building, and the Afghani authorities were trying to deal with the situation. The crisis response unit came and responded, and did a pretty good job in clearing it, but then they came up against a particularly determined group, and that's when our lads went in, just to give them that sort of impetus and leadership to really carry the day. But that went for a number of hours, and a number of lads were injured, and incredibly the fighting was nasty. There were IEDs, there were suicide bombers, there were snipers. It was about as nasty as you can get.
And really close quarter fighting.
Close quarter fighting in the room next door, in the hallway down the room, going up the stairwell, people shooting at you.
And that's one of the 3 events that the citation lists for the Gallantry Star.
Absolutely. That's right. There were a couple of others. I won't really talk to the others in that sense, but you can sort of characterise it that, Steve had that sort of steely determination. He grew up in rural New Zealand. He loved the outdoors. He was lean. He was fit. He was just capable. He was smart. He was that unit attracts a lot of people like that, and they find their feet there and they thrive. And he was a strong leader, and people would follow him.
They find a sense of identity too, don't they? Because sometimes, and I'm not being pejorative here at all, but that they have a great and singular purpose, but they don't quite know what to point it at, right?
Look, that unit has certainly there is a purpose and a focus to it.
Yeah.
And all those that serve in and around it take on that mission and that focus.
And I hadn't realised you have reserves. You have SAS reserves. So Steve left the Army in 2013, but remained a reserve. It was new to me that you have reserves.
Reserves in that unit or reserves in the Army?
Well, no, reserve. I knew you had reserves in the Army, but I just thought the SAS you were either in or out. But he'd remained a reserve, hadn't he?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, there's a lot of lads when they come to transition out to another challenge in life will enlist in our reserves because they've got the skills, they've got the experience, they've got the leadership and the knowledge, and they're quite willing to give up anywhere from, say, 10 to 20 to 30 days a year to come back to the unit and help train the next generation of soldiers. And Steve was like that. And there are a few like that. And it's exceptional because that leadership, that experience of that Hotel Intercontinental, when you can pass that direct knowledge on to a generation of soldiers 5-10 years later, it's invaluable.
You'll miss him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we will miss him.
Major General Peter Kelly talking about Steve Askin, who lost his life fighting the flames in Christchurch from his helicopter yesterday afternoon. The time on Checkpoint is 29.5 minutes to 5. It is a really moving feast tonight as we go along because so much is happening in Christchurch. I just want to update you explicitly on the latest evacuations. This is the police statement. Houses on Kennedy's Bush Road and its intersecting streets are being evacuated from Hallsville Quarry up towards the end of Kennedy's Bush Road. Residents should leave their homes immediately and head to the Pioneer Recreation Centre for further information. And obviously, if you live around there or are transiting through there, don't go there. Now, there is so much breaking news. We will update you immediately as we have new information about evacuations or anything happening in Christchurch. We are not leaving Christchurch, but we do want to go. We have Sonia Rockhouse on the phone right now from the very front of Parliament, I think. Sonia, of course, is a Pike River widow and the mother of a Pike River victim, and she's just been meeting with the Prime Minister. Anna Osborne, I think, who was a Pike River widow, was also meeting with the Prime Minister. Sonia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, it's lovely to talk to you, Sonia. How did you go with the Prime Minister?
Well, he gave us a little tidbit, but didn't obviously give us everything that we wanted. He's said that they'll tell Solid Energy to stop the sealing of the drift at the moment.
Right, hold on a sec. So that's new. So the Prime Minister has said that they're going to hold off on the sealing of the drift for the time being.
For the time being, and he said that they will have to get another extension. And I said, well, they've got till the 30th of June now. And he said, yes, they'll have to get a further extension from that. So I asked him what time frame. When and where this would happen, and he said that there was, until things were resolved. So he was acknowledging that, it means probably that we might be able to stop the picketing up there and have a bit of a break from it.
Sonia, that's a partial victory or a stay of defeat, isn't it? But you sound shattered.
I'm exhausted. I'm very tired. We had a huge protest in Christchurch last night, and it was just massive, way bigger than we expected it to be, and I'm absolutely exhausted, to be honest. I'm not getting excited because we've been made promises before. So,
do you feel you were listened to?
Yes, to a degree. I said to him about listening to our experts and, sitting around a table. He wasn't willing to go quite that far as yet, but I guess it's a start at least, and he did listen, and those that were around the table listened as well. So it's a beginning.
Yeah, so who was here? Anna was with you?
Anna was with me, Dean Dunbar, Bernie Monk, Tony Forster.
Tony Forster is, of course, the mines rescue expert who has said he's prepared to go back up the drift, right?
Yes.
Dean is Joseph Stadd. Bernie, we all know, of course, he's been a stalwart fronting for the media over the past 6.5 years.
Yes, he has.
And who was here with the Prime Minister?
Nick Smith and Bruce Parks, and I'm not sure who the other people were. They said their names, but they didn't mean anything to me, so...
Okay. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us. I just want to update what Sonia's just told us there. I guess you would describe that as breaking news. So Sonia, Anna, Dean, Bernie have met with the Prime Minister and have been told there is a stay on the sealing of the mine, which of course they have been campaigning for so long, so hard, picketing up in that lonely, isolated place. There is a stay for the time being, so the sealing will not happen. Okay. Katrina Batten has been sitting very patiently here with the RNZ headlines. Apologies for the delay, Katrina.
Authorities are evacuating thousands of people in Christchurch below the Port Hills ahead of what our reporter on the scene describes as a massive band of fire pouring off very fast off the hill. Residents are being told to go from Early Valley Road, some areas of Westmoreland and Craycroft, and just minutes ago from Kennedy's Bush Road and intersecting streets. Earlier, 2 houses on Early Valley Road were razed. The Selwyn District's Principal Fire Officer, Douglas Marshall, told Checkpoint the fire has changed direction. An evacuation centre has been set up at Pioneer Stadium on Littleton Street. About 15 fire crews with 120 firefighters and support crew have been fighting the 2 fires in the Port Hills today. Meanwhile, the government has paid tribute to the helicopter pilot who died while fighting the fires. David Askin's chopper crashed yesterday afternoon. The former SAS member from Waimakariri was 38. The Defence Minister, Jerry Brownlee, says the country shares his family's sadness. The Social Development Minister says beneficiaries shouldn't be turned away from work and income officers if they don't have identification. In mid-January, the agency began requiring clients to present identification at the door as a security measure. The Minister, Anne Tolley, says that shouldn't be happening. Pressure is mounting on the government to make a blanket apology for the historic abuse of children in state care. The chair of the Whānau Waters Commissioning Agency, Te Pou Matakana, Meripeka Raukawa-Tate, says the government needs to publicly apologise to the thousands of children who suffered in its care. The Māori Party co-leader, Marama Fox, says the party could walk away from its support deal with National if it can't force changes to new child protection legislation. The legislation, part of the overhaul of Child, Youth and Family, removes the priority to place a child with a member of their family or wider hapu. Instead puts emphasis on the child's safety. Those are the headlines. I'll be back shortly at 6.
Thanks, Katrina. Really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us on Checkpoint. Obviously, it's all on in Christchurch tonight. Evacuations taking place. The fire is big and changing direction in that gusty wind. We will update you with any further news about evacuations in the areas you cannot go to or must not leave as it comes to us. Our reporters are there and we can go to them live the moment anything changes. Do stay with us. Let's turn to business news now with Jonathan Mitchell. Jonathan, welcome on this busy old day. More company results coming through.
Good evening, John. Yes, we had a couple of highlights today. The main one was the specialty milk company A2 Milk. It reported its half-year result to December. Quite a solid profit from them. Its net profit quadrupled to about $40 million. Its sales doubled as well. Where's that demand coming from? There's demand for its baby formula, especially in Australia and China. There's also demand for its new products, such as its long-life milk. It's going to give its marketing a bit of a boost too, to target those key markets elsewhere as well, such as Britain and the United States. It's given a bit of an outlook too for the second half of the year. Sales could be lower in the second half compared with the first. That's really off the back, they say, of there aren't the sort of retail campaigns in China especially to leverage off. So that's one indicator for their second half performance. But the outlook for them also is they're looking to pay a full year dividend in the June year.
Thanks, Jonathan. What happened on the markets today?
Well, we had the top 50 index up, making gains 29 points to 7180. That's really off the back of those comments this morning from Janet Yellen. She's the chair of the Federal Reserve, indicating that the pace of growth in US interest rates could be quicker than people expect, possibly as soon as next month. So markets like that type of rhetoric. So the top 50 index up, and the dollar is trading at 71.7 US cents and 93.4 Australian. John.
Jonathan, sorry, I am so sorry because I'm multitasking and you know how useless men of my age can be at that. Did you run us through the ASB? I was doing about 17 things at once.
That's okay, I can give you that ASB result. We also had
half year profit, right?
Half year profit, record zone up 11% to $525 billion. That's really off the back of higher lending. It kept its costs in check, and there was also customer lending growth.
Nice work, Jonathan Mitchell. Thank you so much. Jonathan Mitchell live from Wellington, just back to the evacuations in Christchurch. Houses on Kennedy's Bush Road and its intersecting streets are being evacuated from Horswell Quarry up towards the end of Kennedy's Bush Road. So that is information we are now repeating. The police say displaced residents in Selwyn are to make their way to Selwyn Events Centre in Lincoln. You will know it for further information. Christchurch residents who've been evacuated. So that's if you're in Selwyn, go to Selwyn's Event Centre in Lincoln. Christchurch residents who have been evacuated should head to Pioneer Recreation Centre on Littleton Street, Summerfield. It's also a good place to go if you're trying to return home and you can't get there. So either Selwyn Event Centre or the Pioneer Recreation Centre are formal evacuation centres. Let's leave Christchurch for the time being. The 12 Indian students who face deportation from New Zealand because their immigration agents submitted fraudulent financial statements with their applications spent today in a church fearing immediate removal from the country. One of their number was picked up by police this morning. Immigration New Zealand, in a statement to Checkpoint, said he's being held in custody while arrangements are made for him to leave New Zealand, be taken from New Zealand. Immigration New Zealand declined our invitation to be interviewed, saying this is ongoing, but the church where the students have been seeking shelter was under no such cone of silence. Our cameraman, Bradley White, joined me and a fair number of other journalists, it had to be said, as we went to see whether RNZ would ask the police to go in and collect them. Their lawyer paced, while the students themselves stood in pensive huddles waiting, but for what? Here is lawyer Alistair McClymont. Alistair, what's happening now? Do you understand what's going on?
Well, I think at the moment Immigration New Zealand are trying to decide whether or not they want to come into a church and take these students away and put them into the police station cells. So we're just simply waiting to hear. We know that immigration officers and police have been out and arrested one student already this morning when he is at home. So at the moment, we're just waiting to see what the next step is.
The venue, the Auckland Unitarian Church on Ponsonby Road, a century-old wooden church just along the road from Ponsonby's famous cafes. Its minister, Clay Nelson, hosted them for a week now, steps into the tea room to comfort a student in tears after the news police are now involved and that one student is in police custody.
Reality is sinking in for them. It's a humiliating experience for them, and they're terrified about what that deportation order is going to mean for the rest of their lives. It's going to affect their ability to travel. It's going to affect their ability to find work. It's going to affect their relationships with their families who have gone out and either taken on loans or collected money so that they could have this experience. They don't know what to expect, and they're scared. And it's not right. It's just not right.
Why isn't it right? Why do you feel so strongly about it that you provided shelter for these men?
There are a lot of reasons, I suppose, but to begin with, it's just an unjust situation. They really didn't do anything wrong.
What's your first name?
Muhammad.
Did Muhammad know that his agent was committing an act of fraud in his name?
Blindly, I trusted my agent. There are many more Indians in New Zealand in the same situation.
The trust may have been blind, but Muhammad signed the application his agent submitted, and that signature means the buck stops with him. Why did he use the agent?
Because New Zealand immigration said that come with the agent, not directly to apply for a student visa. That is the main problem.
So you were told to go through an agent?
Yeah.
The agent fabricated financial details. Mohammed is being deported. How much has his family spent getting him to New Zealand?
Around $25,000.
That's a pretty typical kind of figure. Big money for these Indian families. And sometimes there were tears at the hopelessness of it all. Here's their lawyer again. What have these students done wrong? If I was to ask you to put the immigration case against them, what is it that they are being deported for?
The immigration case is basically that the students signed the application form. So the immigration case is that because they signed the form, they have to be responsible for every single thing that the school's agent submits to RNZ on their behalf, whether or not they knew about it.
Have you told your family you're being deported?
No. Till now I didn't tell them, just keep on saying that my visa is on pending.
You haven't told your mum and dad
Yes.
who paid for you to be here?
Yes, that's right. If I told, they feel emotional and start screaming, because it's not small money and it's spoiling our future.
So you haven't told your parents you're
Yes.
about to be deported?
Yes.
But you may be back in India by this time next week.
That's what I'm feeling very bad. So that's why I'm saying it's the end of my life.
If you're listening to this, I'm going to describe the scene here at the Unitarian Church on Ponsonby Road. A strange kind of stalemate is playing out. So behind me, a group of students just talking, drinking cups of tea, waiting for the inevitable. But the inevitable is on hold, and here's why. Here is a TVNZ camera, here is the TVNZ crew. Here is the News Hub camera, here is the News Hub crew. NZME, Fairfax, the major newspapers, the internet sites, a documentary crew, are all represented here waiting. Now, the question for Immigration New Zealand is, do you want to send the police in front of all these lenses and microphones and journalists to remove these people from the church and eventually from New Zealand? And it appears they don't want to do it while the media are here.
He does not know how they're going to deal with the situation. He's offered the students the opportunity to depart voluntarily. I've already reported back to the manager that that's not going to happen, and he really doesn't know how he's going to deal with it.
But the students will go at some stage. The agents they paid get to keep their money. The schools they paid get to keep their money. But the students lose the lot and get deported.
Everybody has won out of this except the students, who will now be deported, and they'll be replaced by a new bunch of students who will be processed by pretty much the same bunch of agents in India and probably the same lot of problems.
That's Alistair McClymont, the lawyer who is acting for the Students Immigration New Zealand, wouldn't appear on Checkpoint. They say it's still a developing situation. The Immigration Minister, Michael Woodhouse, was asked if the students who were still in the church weren't being picked up when one of their number outside the church has been, because of the heavy media presence there today.
It's not about the cameras being there. This is a place of religion, a house of God, and I don't think it's appropriate that people get wrestled to the ground and taken out in a church. But Immigration New Zealand have a job to do, and I expect them to do it.
Do you expect them to be wrestled to the ground and taken out when they are
I hope
arrested?
not. That'll be up to them. But it's not unusual for people facing deportation to flee, and it's not unusual for immigration officers to chase it.
Immigration Minister Michael Woodhouse. A 5-year-old Hamilton girl is safely back with her family after being locked in a car sales yard overnight as police and volunteers frantically search for her. Gloria Norke was reported missing from her Fairfield home last night, but was found this morning about 6k away in Frankton by 2 men going to work. Here's our Waikato reporter Andrew McRae.
Gloria's mother, Andy, was with a group of family and friends outside her home this morning talking to reporters when the police arrived to tell her the good news.
We're Christians, and me and my cousin, we were just holding each other's hand, like while we were praying. And then I told my cousin, you know, there's inside of me, like my inner spirit, like it's just like a peace in my inner spirit. And my cousin said, probably Glory is in a safer place. And the police said, oh, she's safe.
Andy Anoki says Glory was cold but unscathed by her ordeal.
But the only thing, she was shivering. I'm not sure, probably the whole night while we were searching for her.
She was found shivering.
Yeah, she was found shivering by the police.
She was mystified as to just how Glory ended up at the car yard.
Not sure what really happened, probably inside the car or just somewhere in the car yard. because they're not releasing anything at the moment. They said that the good news is Glory's there. We found her.
Glory was found at Kiwi New Cars in Frankton just before 7:30 this morning. Owner Chris Chan says two young men going past heading to work spotted the girl.
One of them saw the girl standing on the inside out by our front gate, and they sort of helped her get out and called the cops and stuff.
The car yard was the same one Glory's father went to last night, just before it closed, to swap the courtesy car he'd borrowed for his own vehicle. Chris Chan says there was no sign of the girl, but the courtesy car wasn't checked.
No, they just sort of get, dropped off, parked, and then the next day, especially being that late in the night, the next day is when they get cleaned up for the next customer.
Chris Chan says the men who found her reported the girl saying that her father had lost her.
They said she was sweet as, just said that her dad lost her. And the cop also said that she was, pretty chubby, so she was all good.
Gloria Noki is the youngest of 6 children. Her parents are relieved that tonight all of them will be home safe and sound. In Hamilton for Checkpoint, Andrew McRae.
Let's go to Washington now. The White House has confirmed that President Trump kept his national security advisor in place for nearly 3 weeks after he first learned that Michael Flynn might be a national security risk. The resignation was announced yesterday after General Flynn was accused of lying to Vice President Mike Pence and others about the nature of his conversations with Russia's ambassador to the US. Now, Jill Doherty is a former CNN Moscow bureau chief, foreign correspondent for CNN, is a member of the advisory council of the Woodrow Wilson Center's Kennan Institute. Her work is focused in part on President Putin's foreign policy objectives and how he's selling them at home. She's also worked in Washington. I asked her why Michael Flynn had those conversations with Russia's ambassador before Donald Trump took office. Remember, he had no public mandate, not as far as we're aware, and as a private citizen, no clear legal right to be having those conversations.
Why would he have done it? Well, there are a number of explanations. One could be that he simply went off the reservation, that he decided that he was just going to do a little freelance negotiation, or maybe just kind of hinting, to the Russian ambassador that wait till we get into office and it'll be okay. Or he could have been delegated or given permission to do that by the president, or he could have been delegated or given permission by some other member of the administration. Now, the White House is saying, in fact, today they said that President Trump did not authorize General Flynn to do any type of negotiations about the sanctions. So if that is correct, then it brings you back to, I guess, the other two explanations, but it's still very unclear.
He didn't authorise? Is that semantics? Did someone else authorise with his knowledge? Because in a vacuum there is going to be all kinds of speculation, and it does appear that the truth is slowly being extracted. We now know that President Trump knew that Michael Flynn had misled in his descriptions of the conversation.
Right. And that's when you get back to the reasons why Flynn is gone. The White House is saying that it was broken trust, that he had misled the vice president, and, being in that position as a national security advisor, you cannot afford not to have everybody trusting you. It's very, very important. But then why didn't the vice president, apparently until just a few days ago, know about that? Why was Flynn allowed to remain in his position if President Trump knew that Flynn had been lying to the vice president? That's also a very big question with no answer so far.
Jill, how long have you been covering the US and its foreign policy and its relations with the world?
Oh, wow. Well, let's see. I think I would go back probably to the White House in 1991 when I started at the White House. Okay. And then, of course, I went to Russia and I went to Hong Kong. But essentially, 91.
Have you ever seen anything remotely like this before?
No. I don't think anybody has, because even on the simplest basis, you have a president who defies, definition of how an administration is run. I mean, he ran to shake things up. And if you just say, okay, shaking things up, he has done that. He has definitely shaken things up. But we've never had an administration that came in without at least some rudimentary type of structure. I mean, I would look at the National Security Council, the NSC itself. That is what Flynn was the head of, or, was the chairman of, you could say. Flynn was holding an extremely important position, which was to be the honest broker and to gather information, advice, and points about foreign policy and defense policy and present them to the president from the NSC. And of course, the members of the NSC include the State Department, the Defense Department, the CIA, etc. And here you have a president who not only had a man in office who I would have to say many people considered unqualified to do that, both temperamentally and background, and then also has restructured the NSC to demote. This is perhaps a little too much detail, but he has restructured the NSC to demote the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, and also the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They are no longer expected to go to every principals meeting. And what he's done is he's taken his political advisor, Steve Bannon, and put him in that principals position in that principals meeting. That's pretty revolutionary. So I think it's a very serious issue now that in a very confusing, complex, and dangerous world, you don't really have a functioning NSC.
Extraordinary. There was a lot of detail, but I was hanging on every word because it is so bizarre and so unprecedented, and it is either full of hubris or some kind of maverick sense of entitlement, we can reinvent the wheel, or just bewilderment over how one is meant to behave. And of course the other subtext here is Russia and all those accusations and inferences and stories about Donald Trump being compromised in some way, his close relationship with Putin. How close is it? Is he prone to some form of blackmail? Suddenly, because Trump had kind of batted that aside, it's all back again, isn't it?
It's all back again, and I think one of the ironies, John, is that in this situation, you have a president who came in saying, wouldn't it be nice if we had a better relationship? Can't we just get along? Could we work together to fight terrorism? And ultimately, what might happen is it will be much worse than it was. The relationship with Russia could actually deteriorate because of this. There is a theory right now in Moscow after Flynn's demise that in order to preserve himself politically, Trump may have to move against Russia to look as if he is defending American interests. So you could find in, a few weeks, you could find the U.S. president taking steps that might be quite, let's say, anti-Russian or very hard on Russia. They're already starting to, at the White House, sound that alarm. You can see, in fact, Sean Spicer was saying, actually, the president is very tough, I think was the phrase, but very tough on Russia. And that surprised me. That's not what you expect Sean Spicer to say about the American president. So, yes, tough on Russia. Donald Trump, who would have thought?
Jill Doherty, quite an extraordinary situation. Jill, who has been reporting from Washington and also Moscow since 1991 and says she has never seen anything like it. Of course, I don't think anyone has. Right, we're coming up to the 6 o'clock news. After 6 o'clock, we're going to update you on the latest from Christchurch. We have correspondents, we have reporters everywhere. We're also going to talk to officials to tell us where you can go, where you can't go, how the firefighting is going, and all of that kind of stuff. We do want to stress what the fire chief told us, Douglas, when he was talking to us earlier this evening, and it is two very important points. One, if you are in a place that you worry might be in the fire's path, the wind is gusty and variable. If you have any doubt, get out of there, because as Douglas said, you can rebuild a house, but you can't rebuild yourself. And the second point is, if you don't have to go to an area near the fire, please keep away from it. Whilst obviously this is compelling and people want to know what's happening to their city, people need to get out if they're being evacuated, and emergency crews need to get in and out at great speed. So please keep away. We're going to update you on the situation as it happens, evacuations, and what exactly is going on around that Kennedy's Bush area and all through there. But it's coming up to 6 o'clock. Katrina next with RNZ News. Thank you for being with Checkpoint.
RNZ News at 6. Kia ora, good evening. Ko Katrina Batten tēnei. A wide band of fire is burning down the Cashmere Hills in Christchurch, and thousands of people are being told to leave their homes. The evacuees are being directed to Pioneer Stadium. Our reporter Ian Telfer is there and says flames and a wall of smoke are clearly visible from the field in front of the stadium.
About 24 people are so far sitting and standing silently in groups in disbelief at the scene unfolding. It's not clear how close the flames are to houses. At least 3 helicopters are using monsoon buckets to attack the fire, but it appears out of control in the now strong winds. The fire is coming down a wooded valley in the Worsley Road area. The authorities have also been evacuating people in Early Valley Road and some areas of Westmoreland and Crackcroft. And in the past half hour, residents on Kennedy's Bush Road and its intersecting streets were told to leave immediately. They're being advised to head here to the Pioneer Recreation Centre, where an evacuation centre's been set up. At the Pioneer Stadium, Ian Telfer.
The fire service is urging people close to the fire to evacuate if they think there's any chance they're in danger. Selwyn's Principal Rural Fire Officer, Douglas Marshall, says swirling winds and a massive amount of smoke are making firefighting incredibly difficult. However, helicopters with monsoon buckets are still managing to dump water on the flames. He says fires can be fast-moving beasts.
You get one crack of life and you've got to treat that absolutely with precious. You know, it may sound flippant and unfair, but it is a house that can be rebuilt. Just make the right calls. And really, people are concerned about their welfare. Self-evacuation is a good thing.
Douglas Marshall says while the Worsley's Road fire is not contained, it is not out of control. Phil Claude lives just off Early Valley Road. His home was destroyed by the Taitapu fire. He told Checkpoint he and his family were caught by surprise at how fast the flames moved towards them. They were able to flee down a grass track.
We didn't really know what was going on because there was so much smoke. We couldn't sort of tell what was burning and what wasn't. But yesterday morning we were able to go up, and having been told that our place was apparently singed, found that it was burnt to the ground.
Phil Claude says all his family's possessions have been destroyed and his priority is now putting clothes on their backs. And the Defence Force has been called in to help fight the fire. The Defence Minister, Jerry Brownlee, says the military will provide extra manpower, including firefighters, engineering equipment and water tankers. He says local civil defence has offered its assistance to both the Selwyn District Council and Christchurch City Council, but at this stage the councils have not declared a state of emergency. The government says it doesn't see the need for a specific offence for hate crimes. The Police Commissioner raised the possibility at a Parliamentary Select Committee hearing where he told MPs he was concerned about a racial attack on a Muslim woman in Huntly at the weekend. However, the Police Minister, Paula Bennett, says she hasn't seen a rise in hate crimes and on the whole people are more tolerable in New Zealand.
Look, I just think let's be careful not to take a few individuals that have actually been called out and held to account for some pretty awful behaviour that is unacceptable completely and then put that out to the rest of the population. I think New Zealanders are incredibly welcoming of differences.
Paula Bennett says it's not a priority for the government to look into whether a specific hate crime offence is needed. Pressure is mounting on the government to make a blanket apology for the historic abuse of children in state care. This week, a Canadian court found the government there had breached its duty of care to thousands of Aboriginal children when it removed them from their communities nearly 2 decades ago. The chair of Whānau Orders commissioning agency Te Pou Matakana, Meripeka Raukawa-Tate, says there are similarities with New Zealand. She says the government needs to publicly apologise to the thousands of children who suffered in its care. care.
New Zealanders know that this happened in their lifetime. They went into state care 40 years ago, were abused psychologically, emotionally and physically, and that's the result of what we have today. So first of all, sorry would go a long way.
Meripeka Raukawa Tate. 60% of the children taken into state care were Māori, despite Māori making up only 15% of the total population. And just a hand, after meeting the Prime Minister this afternoon, a spokesperson for some of the Pike River families say they've been assured the mine will remain unsealed for the time being. The Māori Party could walk away from its support deal with National if it can't force changes to new child protection legislation. The current law gives priority to placing a child with a member of their family or wider hapu, and if that's not possible, then to someone with the same tribal, racial or cultural background as the child. New legislation, part of the overhaul of Child, Youth and Family, removes that priority and instead puts emphasis on the child's safety. The Māori Party co-leader, Marama Fox, says that could create another stolen generation.
I'd walk over children before the Kumadex any day of the week.
What does that mean?
That means that our children are the most important things in our lives for our future, and we need to fundamentally get this right.
Marama Fox says the party will consider its options if it can't reach agreement with National. It's 5.5 minutes past 6. To sport, the rookie Black Caps batsman Glenn Phillips says his call-up to the New Zealand 2020 cricket side came out of the blue, but he's looking forward to the challenge of playing the country of his birth, South Africa. The 20-year-old Aucklander will replace the injured Martin Guptill in the side for the one-off T20 game against South Africa at Eden Park on Friday evening. Phillips, who moved here when he was 5, says he's opened the batting once for Auckland with Martin Guptill and learnt a lot, while Black Caps coach Mike Hesson has simply urged him not to complicate things.
I haven't really been given any expectations, which is nice on new shoulders. I've just been told to go out there and see the ball, hit the ball and do what I do best. Learning of him, especially in the one game I played with him, was take my time. You can always catch up later on and time is never an issue.
New Black Caps batsman Glenn Phillips. Playmaker Kieran Foran can officially join the Warriors National Rugby League on the proviso he passes a further psychological assessment. The National Rugby League has registered round 3 of registered Foran's contract and says he can play from round 3 of this year's competition as long as the assessment confirms he's in the right frame of mind. Foran signed a 1-year deal with the Warriors in September, but the NRL refused to register the contract after a troubled season at Parramatta. Over the past 4 months, he's been taking part in a rehabilitation program for gambling problems. That's the news.
A sleepless night as fire threatens Port Hills homes.
In the middle of last night, it was just like a big wall of fire. It was extraordinary. It was like watching a volcano erupt or something.
One of Donald Trump's loose cannons in the White House is discharged.
It's like a 14-year-old bad boy. That is who was placed at the head of the United States national security apparatus.
Cold and alone, a 5-year-old's night locked in a car yard.
We were praying and the police said, oh, she's safe, but the only thing, she was shivering probably the whole night while we were searching for her.
Morning Report, Guy Espiner and Susie Ferguson, weekdays from 6.
Met Service weather now through to midnight tomorrow. Northland, scattered rain, more widespread with heavy falls possible from tonight. Auckland and Coromandel, scattered rain developing late this afternoon. Rain becoming widespread tomorrow morning with heavy falls possible. Bay of Plenty, Gisborne and Hawke's Bay, mainly fine today. Isolated showers about the ranges this afternoon and evening. Widespread rain developing tomorrow. Waikato to Taranaki, including Taumarunui, Taupo and Taihape, fine today with high cloud. Rain spreading south tomorrow morning with heavy falls possible, especially in the west. Whanganui to Wellington and Wairarapa, mostly fine today. High cloud thickening tomorrow, bringing rain to Whanganui, Manawatu and the Tararua district late in the day. Fiordland and Southland, showers about the fjords and the south coast, becoming confined to the fjords tomorrow morning, then clearing later, fine elsewhere. And for the remainder of the South Island and also for the Chatham Islands, mostly fine. It's 6:08 and you're listening to Checkpoint.
Thanks, Katrina. As we have heard, thousands of people are being evacuated from homes in Christchurch and around it. A major wind shift this afternoon saw the largest fire flare up again, change direction and loop round back towards part of the city. 2 evacuation centres have been set up to deal with residents being evacuated from their homes. Early Valley Road, Westmoreland, Craigcroft, key areas of evacuation. Houses on Kennedy's Bush Road and its intersecting streets are being evacuated from Hallsville Quarry up towards the end of Kennedy's Bush Road. But please, if you are anywhere in that area, don't bother going in for the time being. Residents should leave their homes immediately and head to the Pioneer Recreation Centre for further information. People whose houses are on Kennedy's Bush Road and its intersecting streets should make their way to the Selwyn Events Centre, which is in Lincoln. You will know it. That is the latest from police. Sam Broughton is the Mayor of Selwyn.
We're looking for people to look out for one another and their own families, to stay safe, and if their homes are in the hills, that they have either self-evacuated before police are called in to make a formal evacuation known. The Christchurch City Council and Selwyn District Council are calling a joint state of emergency to make sure that all available resources are there for our staff. That the work to date has been an amazing effort from our rural fire crews, and the state of emergency is to make sure that evacuations are coordinated, that communication is exactly in the right place at the right time, and that people stay safe.
How many people are being evacuated as we speak?
To the best of my knowledge, there's been a couple of hundred people evacuated. There's been a lot of self-evacuation, that people are using common sense and staying well away from the fire, but that has been backed up by official checks.
You're about to step into a meeting with other people in the community. What is top priority for you?
Well, reassuring that everything that can be done is being done, that our staff have worked tirelessly to control this fire in a very unpredictable wind conditions and also in a very dry period at the end of summer, and that, you know, the emotional consequences as well as the physical consequences are very real of an event like this.
Some of your residents have lost their homes.
Yes.
What can you do for them now in the immediate term?
In the immediate term, anyone needing shelter tonight can go to the Lincoln Event Centre, where there is support available for people there. I'm also taking support to a mayoral fund, a welfare fund, to support those who need it, and if people find themselves requiring that assistance, then I want to hear from them.
Sam Broughton is the Mayor of Selwyn. Quite remarkable things happening in Christchurch now. Let's go to our reporter Ian Telfer, who is at the Pioneer Stadium, which is functioning as an evacuation centre, or it was. Ian, people were being told to go to it. What's happening now?
Yes, hello, John. That's right. I'm still at the Pioneer Centre, but there's very few other people here, and that's because in the last half hour they've decided not to bring people here, but to send them to 2 other evacuation centres, which are now going to be the Hallswell Community Centre and the Selwyn Event Centre in Lincoln, which you just heard about there from the Mayor. So people are being redirected as they arrive by civil defence staff and local people here, and being sent down to Hallswell. There are still a couple of dozen people here standing around. Most of them are not evacuees. They're locals and of various kinds. And what they're seeing is a band of fire. Now got flames both sides of the hill in front of us here that I can see from the field. And I think there'll be flames right around the back, but it's hard to tell. And any moment now, I guess they'll start coming over the bridge of the hill and down towards us. It's very hard to see how close to the houses, but I guess there's only a gully separating them now, and it's certainly very dramatic.
Right, so if you're on the Selwyn side of the fire, you go to the Selwyn Event Centre, right? If you're on the Christchurch side of the fire, you were being told to go to the Pioneer Stadium. Can you repeat for us, Ian, where you're meant to go now? It's Hallswell what?
Yes, people are now being sent, John, to the Hallswell Community Centre in Hallswell. Yep.
Okay, and how close are those flames coming to you there now? Are they moving towards you in that wind?
Look, it's not like we're threatened in any way. There's quite a distance. It'd be a couple of k's from here. But the flames are very visible, and they're in the pine trees to the right of a hill that sits in front of me. I don't know what it's called. And to the left as well. And the smoke is just pouring up into the sky with this very strong wind here. There are at least 3 helicopters there operating above it, trying to knock these back. But I'd say it's well out of control. And now the fire is beginning. I can see flames now on the top of the ridge of this hill in front of us. So it is certainly spreading, and I would say very much out of control.
Yeah, it sounds terrible. Ian, you have been there all day and you were filing a piece for us earlier today about the fact that the fire was under control and that people were able to return to their homes and take stock and all that kind of stuff. And then suddenly it all took off. But I think you're going to introduce us, throw to your own piece, are you? What were you working on?
Well, John, that's right. I spent the day at Governor's Bay, which is actually on the other side of these Port Hills, on the Littleton Harbour side, if you like, where last night, in the middle of the night, in fact, 2 o'clock in the morning, people started being evacuated. 107 people evacuated from there early this morning. And here's what I saw.
The helicopters have been droning all day here again, and ash is gently falling from a smoky sky. Underneath, people have been returning to their homes after the early morning emergency. Barry Sly lives at Taunton Gardens, a historic house at Allendale. He packed last night and fled at 1:30 a.m.
We had the scary experience of the fire flaring up again just up behind us, and we could hear it. We could hear it burning. That's how close it was, and we thought, we're out of here, because if the wind comes up or if it changes, she's all over.
People here thought they were out of danger yesterday, but then were told the wind was changing and warned to get ready. The worst affected residents were only allowed back at midday. The chief of Governor's Bay's Volunteer Fire Brigade, Andrew Norris, says he had crews stationed at the most threatened houses, but they just had to wait through the night for aerial backup.
We were very, very lucky in that the helicopters come back on board at 6 a.m. this morning, and with the arrival of the helicopters, we were able to stop the fires, within about 100 metres of the homes. But by then it was under heavy vegetation. Very fortunate to get the aerial resources back on deck at a nice early hour, and really did save the day.
Some residents returning today couldn't talk about the evacuation, saying they were too emotional. 27 people used a welfare centre at the Governor's Bay school. One woman, who would only give her name as Jane, says everyone's on edge.
Monday night we packed things ready to leave if we had to, because we were told, the volunteer fire people are very good and they know generally what's going on. So we were told to get ready, which we did. But then last night we got even more ready, because it was obviously, when we got home from work yesterday, the flames were obvious, near.
Rob Brown only moved into his house above Governor's Bay Fire Station 6 weeks ago and joined the brigade. He's been out fighting the fires for 36 hours on only 2 hours sleep, and he's not sure if they're out of danger.
You can never tell with these things. We're up on the hill, and obviously on Monday night, and what we seem to have made good headway, we were back at there last night in this pretty much the same situation, the same position. So we could potentially be up here tonight also, even though it looks like things have progressed for us, you can never tell. Just one shift in the weather pattern could change things completely. But fingers crossed.
This afternoon I came across 2 landscapers working on a garden. Tim Daly pulled out yesterday because of heavy smoke, but he's back at it today, though he says it's a bit eerie.
It is pretty quiet, yeah. We got here this morning, it was a bit more quiet than normal, with everyone being sort of evacuated, but everyone's sort of coming back to their homes now, and obviously it's been sort of called off in terms of the immediate danger in the area, so yeah.
So your landscaping, you're going to keep going?
Yeah, we'll keep going, keep getting in the garden, and just keep sort of pottering along.
Barry Sly says the Ohinatahi Valley above him's all grass and bush and full of native birds, and the fire is devastating.
I put this on par with the earthquakes, so we've had enough.
Civil Defence is holding a community meeting tonight to update the community on what they can expect next. In Governor's Bay for Checkpoint, Ian Telfer.
So that was Ian earlier in the day, before the fire was reinvented basically by the wind change. We are going to update, and this is a very formal and explicit update, update 3 from the police. Hallswell Library is the latest evacuation centre. Boy, this is moving fast. Displaced residents on the Christchurch side, on the city side of the flames, are now being directed to Hallswell Library, not Pioneer Recreation Centre. This is from the police. Selwyn Event Centre in Lincoln also remains an evacuation centre if you are on the other side there. So if you can't get home, or if you have left home, or if you just want to be in the comfort of people who are there to support you, and you are Needing a place to shelter, displaced residents now being directed to Horswell Library, which has been set up as an evacuation centre, not as had been previously the case, the Pioneer Recreation Centre. We're going to talk to Leanne Dalzell before 6:30. We're just waiting to hear from her. There is a briefing now of emergency services. Bill English, the Prime Minister, is responding to this. Also, a state of emergency, we believe, is going to be declared. Until then, let's talk about food taxes. A study released today has found Australia could save more than $3.5 billion a year on healthcare costs if it started taxing junk food and subsidising fresh fruit and vegetables. And as well as saving their government money, the taxes and subsidies would result in health improvements with little effect on food bills. Here's our reporter Zach Fleming with more.
The study is unique in that it looks at the impact of not just taxing junk foods, but also subsidising fresh foods. Published in renowned global medicine journal PLOS, it found taxing sugar, saturated fat, salt and sugary drinks, as well as subsidising fruits and vegetables, would save Australia's health sector more than $3.5 billion a year. University of Otago and Melbourne professor Tony Blakely co-authored the study and says taxes would have similar results in New Zealand.
The data we used was for Australian death rates, disease rates and morbidity rates. But we did actually use a New Zealand set of price elasticities to do this that I generated in New Zealand. So we would expect the same sort of pattern to be found in New Zealand, but that is an open question. And I also lead a research group in New Zealand. We are redoing this analysis for New Zealand.
The taxes proposed were based on countries already taxing junk foods. 50 cents per litre on sugar-sweetened drinks, 85 cents per 100 grams of sugar and other foods, adding just over $1 to a half-litre bottle of Watty's tomato sauce. $1.37 per 100 grams of saturated fat, which would add around $2 to a 1 kilogram block of cheese, and 30 cents per gram of sodium, that's over the maximum recommended level. Meat and many dairy products were excluded from the taxes. The fruits and vegetables subsidy would save consumers $1.50 per kilogram, dropping most fruits' cost by a third. Opponents to food taxes often say they unfairly hit low-income earners, but Professor Blakely says his study has a less than 1% impact on the average household food bill.
Low-income people actually respond more to price, so they'll reduce their consumption more, which will mitigate or offset some of the price increase. So, for example, if we just did a sugary drink tax and had no subsidies in there, that would be slightly regressive for low-income people because they would spend slightly more in absolute terms, but not by a lot. Our package, though, achieves something that's financially neutral across the whole food basket.
The study found a tax on sugar netted the biggest gains in health, followed by salt, saturated fat, and in last place, a tax on sugary drinks alone. In New Zealand, 2/3 of adults and 1 in 9 children are obese, and the government has previously said that excess consumption of sugary drinks and junk food is a major contribution to the high rate of obesity. But Health Minister Jonathan Coleman said in a statement today, the government's position has not changed and it is not actively considering taxes, but he will continue to keep watching emerging evidence. Public health researcher and founder of FIS, a group advocating for a sugar tax in New Zealand, Dr. Gerhard Sunborn, says the government's hesitation is not good enough.
The government need to take a leadership stance on this, and they need to prioritise children's health over the wishes of industry. You know, taxes don't just change behaviour, but another important thing that they do is they raise awareness to the public that these types of products are not good for you, which is why there's a tax on them. It's worked with tobacco. It's sure to work with sugar-sweetened beverages too.
Sugar taxes are already in place in Britain, Ireland, Belgium, France, Fiji, Mexico, South Africa and 5 US states. For Checkpoint, Zach Fleming.
Right, we're going to head back to Christchurch now. Leanne Dalzell, the Mayor of Christchurch. Are you there, Leanne?
I am, John.
Well, nice to talk to you. Sorry for me being so familiar. And Mayor Dalzell, it's nice to have you on the program. Let's update the latest now. I have an email here from Tresca Foresta. Is Tresca one of yours? Or is that because this has got all the closures on it? Do you know about all of these? So this is Cashmere Road, Worsleys Road, Hoonhay.
These are the roads that are closed.
Yeah.
And that's being managed through the through our traffic.
Yes, so Hoonhay, Kennedy's Bush, Dyers Pass, Summit Road, Old Taitapu, Early Valley Road and Holmes Road. I guess no surprise you really wouldn't want to drive through any of those areas. How is it? How are you going there?
Well, it's been quite a challenging day, I guess, for the whole of the city because it dominates the horizon. So every window that you look out of in the central city, you can just see the pool of the smoke, and you know that there's people out there fighting and doing their best to get the fires under control. But it's taken a turn for the worse with 200 to 300 residents of now a city suburb. So it's gone from being a rural fire on the boundary between a city and a district now to a city response being required as suburbs are being evacuated. People need to be looked out for. So it's become a lot more of a city issue, and that's why myself and the Mayor of Selwyn have each declared states of emergency in our respective areas.
Okay, so that's formally happened this evening?
Yes, we've just done that at 6 o'clock tonight.
Okay, what does that mean in real terms? How does that affect your ability to respond? Are you able to mobilise better with that kind of declaration?
What it does is that it ensures that we have the power to issue instructions, I guess, around evacuations. We can manage roads much easily, traffic. If you think of, there's the odd person liking to go out there and take photographs. We're just asking people to stay well out of harm's way, but also to let the emergency services do their work. And also recognising that there's now really a multi-agency response, and we want to send a message of reassurance and confidence, I guess, to the residents who are now being evacuated at relatively short notice, that we are pulling together all of the resources that need to be pulled together in order to manage this response.
Yeah, and it's very hard to manage a response when the wind is gusty and keeps changing direction, right? I mean, this is...
Look, it's an unfolding situation.
Yeah,
Things change, within a matter of seconds. And as you say, the direction of the wind can have an incredible effect on what is going to happen next. And, you think you've got one thing under control, you've got a fire break that's stopping the flames from spreading further, and then all of a sudden it turns the other way, and there's been this constant fear that the two fires would join up, and that still hasn't happened, but it's, that always sits at the back of the mind in terms of how serious it can get.
Yes. Can you elaborate for us on Westmoreland? So that's a relatively new subdivision, isn't it?
Well, relatively new in that it didn't exist when I was a child growing up, but it's years old.
Okay,
but it is, they're modern houses that...
Where is it exactly? Can you tell me where it is?
Now, I knew you'd ask me a question like where exactly it is, but I don't know the name of the street that it runs off.
Okay, no, that's right. So,
it's a large road.
People who live there know where it is, right? And they've been evacuated, have they?
Yeah, yes, the entire suburb. So it's about 200 or 300 residents out of that area there.
Yeah, and people are emailing in pictures, and so that's on the flames are very much on the Port Hills behind them there.
Yes, it's very close. It's too close for comfort, and I think that decision was made very, very quickly. I think that because I think people haven't quite appreciated that the rural fire response has been managed out of an emergency operations centre in Rolleston, and the decision, I think, to evacuate came very fast. So the notification that we might have to prepare for an evacuation was only a matter of minutes before the decision was made. So that's how changeable the situation is down here. It's just, with as you say, the matter of the wind changing direction, a gust, just suddenly everything changes, and people have to be able to respond quickly.
Do you need help? Do you need, in fact, I've just got a piece of paper past me, the Prime Minister building. This says a local civil emergency will officially be declared sometime tonight. We're going to hear from him in about a minute. But do you need help? Are there agencies who you would like to come into Christchurch and contribute more than you're able to provide locally?
This isn't my call as the Mayor. I have declared the local state of emergency in this area. Sam Broughton, the Mayor of Selwyn, has also jointly called a state of emergency. We've put that out as a joint statement, and there are a lot of offers of help that have been coming in all day. I know Defence has made offers of help. I know that there are The airport company has made an offer of help. So the offers of help are coming in, and they're being coordinated through the Emergency Operations Centre in Rolleston.
Okay, thank you, Leanne Dalzell, who is the Mayor of Christchurch. Now, I just want to confirm that a state of emergency has been declared by both Selwyn and Christchurch, those neighbouring districts. So that has just happened. We also have a clip from Billings. We're going to hear from him in a sec. But Peter Darling, Peter, are you there? Peter, I think, Peter, we've got you on the phone. Peter, you were on Checkpoint last night, and I think the situation's deteriorated really rapidly since then. Peter, are you there?
Yeah, I am here, John.
Yeah, are you fighting a fire at the moment? Where are you?
Yeah, we're still on our own property in Taitapu.
So when we spoke to you 24 hours ago, right,
Yep.
you were putting in an emergency fire break to try.
Yep.
You had the diggers out going around your property. Has that worked? Where are the flames now in Taitapu?
Yeah, well, it's come. What's happened? It's come around in a circle. This morning I thought we'd have no fire near us, but it was right out our back door. So we've had diggers again here today. We've just widened the fire breaks to about 30 or 40 metres now, and we're going to do it again. We're going to just bring a dozer in again to make it wider still.
Okay, Peter, if you have to go at any stage, you won't be at all offended. But
No, it's all right.
Thank you, you good man. Yeah. I'm really struck by the fact that there's any fuel left for those damn flames to burn on, because it went through there in a big way yesterday. So what's burning?
Well, what's happened. It went past us yesterday, and it's gone up a gully. Then it's come back down another one. It's come back towards us again overnight, and and the sparks. When the wind changed, the sparks were going sort of 30 metres across the fire break. So we've got about half a dozen people here trying to kick that out of it. But our fire's not the big major one. It's around the corner. We can see flames at Lansdowne Valley Road, which would be looks a lot bigger than our one. But yeah, we've had 2 days. We've had fire at our back door by 50 metres probably.
Yeah, you must.
So we're just widening all the fire breaks.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I can hear on your phone is, one, you sound exhausted. This is such a developing situation in Christchurch. You have the headlines. Thank you.
Thousands of people have been evacuating their homes, taking pets and livestock in the eastern parts of Christchurch as a wide band of fires move down the Port Hills. Residents have been told to get out of Early Valley Road, some areas of Westmoreland and Craycroft, and Kennedy's Bush Road, and intersecting streets from Holsworth Quarry through to the end of the road. There's been a change in one of the evacuation centres, with evacuees being directed to the Holsworth Community Centre and Library instead of the Pioneer Stadium, as well as the Selwyn Events Centre in Lincoln. Mayors of Christchurch and Selwyn have just declared a joint state of emergency due to the Port Hills fires, and the Defence Force has been called in to help fight them. The Defence Minister, Jerry Brownlee, says the military will provide extra manpower, including firefighters, engineering equipment and water tankers. In other news, the Pike River protesters say they've been assured by the Prime Minister the mine will remain unsealed for the time being. The government says it doesn't see the need for a specific offence for hate crimes, and pressure is mounting on the government to make a blanket apology for the historic abuse of children in state care. Those are the headlines. Our next news and weather is at 7.
Thank you so much, Katrina. You're with Checkpoint. We're going longer tonight because of this extraordinary situation in Christchurch. Thousands of people are being evacuated. The flames have looped round and are heading back into the Christchurch city area. There are evacuation centres in both Selwyn and Christchurch. Thank you for being with us. We are simply keeping up with what's going on, but it is moving very fast. The Prime Minister, Bill English, said a short time ago a local civil emergency will officially be declared sometime tonight.
Well, look, it seems to have taken a turn for the worse this afternoon, which is quite concerning with evacuation. So we're expecting I've spoken to Minister Brownlee about it, and we're expecting a declaration of a local civil emergency there fairly shortly. It's all under the control of the rural fire people there. The Defence Forces are on standby to see what resources they could add, but it does seem to be getting disturbingly close to some 2 houses, and you've got some reasonably significant evacuations going.
When will a decision be made about a state of civil defence?
Oh, look, I'd expect it to be dealt with in the next few hours.
So when did the Defence Force get put on notice to help there? Do you know?
Well, you need to talk to to Minister Brownlee, but I understand this afternoon sometime.
Bill English saying you need to talk to Minister Brownlee. Well, we did. He spoke to our Christchurch reporter Belinda McCammon a short time ago.
Well, I understand that throughout the day we've been told that the fires were under control. That was from the Rural Fire Service, but quite clearly that's not the case. So I'm not very happy about those situation reports that were coming through. We've, in my other role as Minister of Defence, made the Defence Force available to help wherever possible. And of course, I understand now that there's going to be, I'm told, 2 states of civil emergency declared locally. All of this points to the need to straighten up the civil defence legislation, which, interestingly, I approached all parties in Parliament for it to come to a cross-party meeting. They're all coming. They all want to do something tomorrow. But, of course, that doesn't help Christchurch today. So just a little unclear. Not at all a happy situation at the moment.
That's interesting. You sound frustrated and unhappy, which is very understandable. The briefing that our colleagues had at 4 o'clock from Douglas Marshall, he said that this was an expected wind change, really, and so that this development now with the fires really out of control wasn't really unexpected. So,
well, if that was the case, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying this because it is frustrating. But if they were expecting a wind change, then you might have thought they would have had the state of civil emergency, which means that they can go ahead and cut fire breaks and other such to avoid the worst effects of it. I've got to be careful. I'm not a firefighter, and I don't want to be criticised at all, any of those people who are out there dealing with this. But we've just got to try and get as good a result as we possibly can out of what is a difficult situation. So I do respect the guys that are out there trying to stop the thing. I just wonder if some of the assessments might have come just a little bit too late.
Jerry Brownlee speaking to Belinda McCammon a short time ago. We're going to go to our reporter Maya Burry, who is live. Hi Maya, where are you now? You were at the cordon before. Where are you now?
I'm quite near Westmoreland at the moment, John, and just looking out at the moment, I can just see massive plumes of smoke and still a lot of helicopters circling around, obviously trying to bring this blaze under control. But I'm certainly not alone in Westmoreland, and in this area there's lots of people lined up on the streets looking out at the smoke, people taking photos, that kind of thing. And that's not necessarily what emergency services are wanting people to do. They're wanting them to go to these evacuation centres or get away from the area of concern.
Yeah, absolutely. So Westmoreland has been effectively, the entire subdivision, a sort of small suburb or whatever, has been evacuated, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So I'm just a bit further out from Westmoreland, but obviously that area in Westmoreland has been evacuated.
Maya, how close are the flames to the nearest points of Westmoreland? Can you tell from there? I know you can't get into Westmoreland, and nor should you, but have you a sense of how close the flames are getting?
It's just so hard to tell, John, because there's just so much smoke, and it just makes things really tough. But where I was at the cordon earlier on Early Valley Road, there was ash falling down onto the road, and I was covered in ash at one point. And it was, as I said earlier, it was a scene of chaos. Evacuations are so stressful for people, yes. And there were people saying to their dad at the cordon, what should we take when we go to get stuff out of the house? And those kind of decisions you just really never think about. What stuff do you take from your home when you're told you have only a few minutes to evacuate? So just some really kind of stressful choices, I guess, being made today for some people in Christchurch.
Maya Burry, thank you so much, Maya. Maya, just outside Westmoreland, which has, I think, been evacuated in its entirety. If you're from Westmoreland and you are listening, do text us on 2101. That is still our text number, isn't it? I'm just... it's been such a busy day that please get into contact with us and we will give you a call. Our text number, of course, is 2101. Go, John. Right. We're going to take you back to a piece of audio that we played earlier because it's arresting, but even more than that, it gives you an idea of how fast things are changing. Hold on, Pip is just speaking in my ear. I'm going to cross to Joelle Daly. Joelle Daly is going to join us now. Hi, Joelle. Are you on the line? Joe, I think we might have the wrong line there. I think we will have Joelle. Is she there? Joelle, are you there?
I am. Hello.
Oh, yeah, hello.
Hi.
Nice to talk to you, Joelle. Who have you got with you?
I have Doug and Vicky Flaum. They are sitting in beside Pioneer Stadium just watching the helicopters drop buckets of water on the area around their house. with their binoculars, and they're happy to have a chat with you if you'd like.
I'd love to. Thank you, Joelle, that's fantastic. Could you pass me to Doug or Vicky, whoever wants to go first?
Vicky's right next to me.
Thank you. Thanks, Joelle. Nice work. Vicky.
Hello.
Hello, Vicky. It's John. How are you going?
Okay, at the moment, as best I can.
I don't know how you're going okay. So what are you looking at? So you're sitting there by Pioneer Stadium, which was an evacuation centre. It no longer is. And are you looking back to the area where your home is?
Looking straight up the hill at our house where all the helicopters are hovering and black billowing smoke is going across the hills, and using our neighbour's property in front of us, taking water out of their pool and just dumping it. So they've been dumping water in between our house and the neighbour behind us at the moment. We all live on, it's a rural part of the hill up there, and we've all got long 10-acre strips, so we're cautiously watching the flames and hoping it doesn't get into our pine trees, because if it gets into there, it'll just rip up the hill, we're guessing. So
what an extraordinary situation. So what area of Christchurch is that? What are you looking at?
It's the rural hill in between Cashmere Residential and Westmoreland, and to the if you're looking towards the south on the left side, it's Craycroft area, and the new Adventure Bike Park that just went in at just before Christmas, opened just before Christmas. Yes. You enter it from the bottom of our road, and there's just black billowing smoke coming from the valley that's in. It's just
so that area where the Adventure Bike Park is, which has been a really exciting development for Christchurch, that's burning, is it?
Yes, it is.
And so the helicopters are using monsoon buckets, effectively, literally, in fact, to try and save the area that your home is in.
Correct.
And you were talking to us as this happens. You sound remarkably calm, Vicky.
I am. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. So we've got all the things. I got home in enough time to get photos out of the house, documents, and my husband had a whole lot of his guys come that work for him. They just brought home a big trailer, and they just literally flew into the back of his office and just took all the files out and dumped them in the trailer and took them away. So emptied the safe. So anything that we can't replace, hopefully we've managed to take out. Everything else, even though it will be sad if something does happen, it is replaceable stuff. So
and you are insured. Please tell us you're insured, Vicky.
Absolutely, we're insured.
Yeah, I think everyone in Christchurch is fully on top of their insurance situation in a quite rigorous fashion, right? You all
totally,
know. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, mind you, we've all just had our houses refixed, but after the earthquake, but.
Yeah. What's the wind doing? Because I can hear it on your phone.
It's really strong. It's a real strong northeasterly. So if anybody's out there praying, just pray that the wind drops. That would be a huge help.
Yeah, that's a good prayer. Vicky, we're looking at pictures now, and the landscape is so dry. It is so dry.
Yeah, it's very, very dry. Yeah, it's been dry for months. I think they put a fire ban in on the weekend, but too late.
Yeah. I hope that we'd love to have you on Checkpoint tomorrow night to celebrate the fact your home is still standing, eh? Shall we do that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Amen to that.
Okay, thanks, Vicky. Lovely to talk to you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Vicky. That is quite an extraordinary situation. So Vicky is sitting down there by the Pioneer Stadium with binoculars, watching to see whether or not her house is going to remain standing. She and her husband obviously got in and got a lot of stuff out of there. And as Douglas was saying before when we were talking to him, you can replace your home, you can't replace yourselves, but nonetheless, it is still her home. She was very bravely, heroically bravely, watching to see if it's going to survive. Phil Claude can tell you what it's like to lose your home. And we're going to play this interview again because it's a very real and raw insight into how much the fire has changed direction and how fast it's been moving. And lots of people are saying, why wasn't more done? But a lot of the time, no one knew where it was going next. And Phil Claude is a classic example of this. His place near Lansdowne was out of the path of the fire, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. But he only realised that just in time. Let's listen to what happened.
Well, I'd left a friend's place where I'd been working. When I left his driveway, I looked straight up into the valley, Lansdowne Valley, and I could see big plumes of smoke, and decided I wouldn't go to the supermarket to pick up some stuff that I'd promised to pick up, like dog food. Instead, headed quickly down the road at breakneck speed, and went into Early Valley, which is a sealed road, and then got on our shingle road, which is a bit of a ghost track, and started heading up the hill. And I got up as far as Denise and Ken McKenzie's place, and there was too much heat, and I sort of felt a bit unsafe, and I didn't actually at that time know whether or not Katie and the kids were at home because I hadn't been able to contact them. So I backed down and got into a spot where I could call, and eventually I got hold of Katie. I said, "Whereabouts?" She said, "We're at home." And I said, "You need to get out of there. We're sort of about 3 k's further back into the valley." And I could see the smoke and the flames were all just being blown right up towards our house. And I just yelled at her, "Get out, get out," and told her where to run to, which is down the sort of grass track that's maintained by another neighbour. So her and my daughter Ruby, who was at home at the time, and our ageing dog, all managed to flee down the grass track to an area where there are waterfalls, and I entered the valley from the other side, which was opposite to the direction that the flames were all going in, where I grabbed them and we got out, and that was it. We didn't really know what was going on because there was so much smoke, we couldn't sort of tell what was burning and what wasn't. So, but yesterday morning we were able to go up, and having been told that our place was apparently singed, found that it was burnt to the ground.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you've lost your home. But how fantastic that everyone, got out. That they must have been the most terrifying minutes.
Yeah, it was particularly scary for my daughter.
Yeah. But she's fine, right? I mean, fine is a relative term. You've lost your home and she's lost all her stuff, but she's in one piece, isn't she?
Yeah, that's right. That's the main thing.
Yeah, by God it is. And those flames just must have been moving like a train, were they?
Well, they were, because Katie called back at one stage, said, "I think we'll head further up the hill." And I said, no, just get out, run down. Like, they had to go down to the bottom of the valley, or otherwise, I don't think they would have outrun much, and I wasn't sure that they could actually get out onto the summit road from the next property up. So,
I don't. If you're in Australia, if you're in Victoria, you understand how fast flames move, but I don't think we really comprehended in New Zealand that they can move like that, especially with that nor'wester in Christchurch.
Yeah, well, that's right. We've got a local neighbourhood fire team, and they'd actually been up around everyone's properties the week before, sort of assessing the capabilities and seeing where water was stored and what have you. And when I went to go through this property to go and round up Katie and Ruby and the dog, the guy's property, it is Andy, he was leaving his Toyota with a little wee single axle trailer with a water tanker on the back of it, and I said, "Andy, you haven't got a shit show." And anyway, he carried on and I carried on, and when I was coming back with Katie and Rube, I saw Andy coming back. He said, "Oh, it's just too big." Yeah. So, no one, the local fire team no one really sort of realised quite what was going on and how quickly it was all happening.
Yeah,
it just got whipped along by the wind, and it was so dry.
I can hear the wind now. Are you insured? Tell me you're insured.
Oh, yeah, probably should have had a bit more, but anyway, you can only do what you can afford. But yeah.
And I understand wonderful friends have started to give a little for you already.
Yeah, well, I believe so. I haven't sort of had much chance to. Yeah, we're just sort of at the moment just trying to, get socks on our feet and clean underwear on and real basic stuff, buy a toothbrush.
Bloody hell.
Oh. So anyone out there might be listening, make sure you get your family photos all digitised and safely deposited in the cloud somewhere or something. We didn't have time to get anything.
Phil Claude, who lost his home, but his family, his wife and their child and their dog, their lovely old dog, are all safe. but just an example of how dynamic this situation is, for want of a better word. The winds are gusty, they are moving around, they are swirling around, and the flames are changing direction and finding new fuel, pine trees, very dry landscape, very dry vegetation, and they are moving at real speed. And the message from everyone involved in the emergency services down there is, if you think that the flames may potentially turn towards you, get away. You're with Checkpoint. It's 10 to 6. Our Christchurch Bureau Chief Belinda McCammon is on the line now. Hi, Belinda.
Hello, John.
Hi, where do you live?
I live in St Albans.
Okay, so you're all right, aren't you?
Yeah, but I mean, certainly this morning, I've been in at work since before 8 o'clock, and this morning the smell of soot in the air was very clear. So, and I haven't really been outside at all today. I've been chained to the desk, but from my colleagues, that smoke is getting thicker out there.
Yeah, it's terrifying really, isn't it? Because it's getting thicker and no one knows which direction it's going to come from next, right?
That's exactly right. So it is very much a fluid developing story, and the emergency services, I think, are just trying to cover all bets at the moment because they aren't too sure which way this is going to go. I will say, though, that in all the advice that we have had about what to do, and if you are worried, and you haven't had an official order, you can still leave your house. You don't have to wait until an official order to evacuate.
Absolutely right. Yeah,
but also check on your neighbours. As we know during the earthquakes, it's at times like these that that the vulnerable, the elderly, those living alone might not know what to do. And it's just take a moment. If you're packing your bag and heading out the door because you've got friends and family to go and stay with, your neighbour might not. So just check on them.
Right. Can you... and they're very good points, Belinda. Can you update us on any sorts of information? We have 2 evacuation centres at work there right now.
That's right. The Pioneer Recreation Centre, as we know, has closed. We have now got evacuation centres at the Hallswell Library and one at the Selwyn Event Centre in Lincoln because, as we've heard previously, the mayors of Christchurch and Selwyn have declared a joint state of emergency because of these fires. So they are operating two evacuation centres to deal with residents. We've also had an update from the lines company Orion. As you know, we had about a power outage for about half an hour today across most of Christchurch, affecting about 89,000 residents. It was pretty quickly restored, but Orion in the last half hour or so have said it is possible that there will be further outages tonight until the fires are fully extinguished. So they are urging residents to remain fully alert and to be ready to respond if the power goes out again.
Yes, it would be almost miraculous if there weren't more power outages in the context of how fast those flames are moving, and they're now right on the edges of urban areas, aren't they?
That's exactly right. And of course, and we're, and another warning is for people to, keep away from those areas that are being evacuated. We already know that there's heavy traffic in Cashmere, Westmoreland, Kennedy's Bush, in that area. If you don't need to travel in those areas, please keep away from those areas.
Belinda McCammon, our Bureau Chief, and your team, you're doing a wonderful job. Thanks so much, Belinda, joining us live from our Christchurch Bureau. The reporter's been doing wonderful work today. I've got the list, in fact, and I'm going to go through it now. Cashmere Road is closed west of Kaiwara Street through to Kennedy's Bush Road. Obviously, that Kennedy's Bush region is a no-go zone. Worsley's Road is closed. Hoonhay Valley Road is closed. Kennedy's Bush, we've said that, it's obviously closed. Worsley's track from the road is closed. Dyers Pass Road is closed between Hackthorne Road to Governor's Bay Road. Use the Littleton Tunnel. Summit Road is closed between Gebbies Pass and Rapaki Track. Old Taitapu Road is closed between Ulsterholtz Road and Early Valley Road. Big burning through there. Keep away. Early Valley Road is closed, of course, and Holmes Road is closed. Port Hills, if you have any reason to, just follow Belinda's advice, follow the emergency services advice, please keep away from there. And if you need to keep away from there, you can go to an evacuation centre if you don't have anywhere else to go. Ian Telfer, our reporter, is joining us live on the line. Ian, are you at the evacuation centre? Where are you? At the library there?
Yeah, that's right, John. I've come 10 minutes down the road pretty quickly, and just to find out where people really are. I mean, we've got thousands of people evacuating, and it's still not clear where these people are. The car park here is full, but there aren't too many people here yet. There are a lot of people in red suits walking around with civil defence written on the back. So clearly this is the place. How many evacuees are here yet? A bit unclear.
Okay, can you tell us exactly where you are? So people in the city, because there's an evacuation centre in Selwyn that we've heard lots about. Where are you now if people in the city need somewhere to go to?
Yes, John, that's right. There's been a bit of confusion, hasn't there? But the Pioneer Stadium has been closed now, and people are being sent to this place, which is the Hallswell Centre. It's also got a name of Te Hapua, and it's basically the library and pool and community centre in Hallswell.
Anyone in Christchurch will know that, obviously. Ian, one of the awful things I can hear, and we can all hear on your phone, is the wind. That needs to stop. How gusty is it?
Yes, it's still very gusty. It's not constant, but it's quite strong. And as you say, here we're getting a lot of it. I'll pull out of the window and see if I can talk to you. Also can see very clearly from here still the fires. The smoke is a big band. It hasn't particularly got worse in the last half an hour, but it hasn't got better either. Still plenty of helicopters and still plenty of action and plenty of black smoke in a wide band across the west of the south part of Christchurch, on the side of the Cashmere Hills.
You said
still a significant event. Yep.
Yes, you said wide. Is there way more smoke than there was earlier in the day?
Well, it's drifting. It's drifting across. I'd say I can probably see more as part of it, but slightly different angle from here than where I was in the Pioneer. But the wind is so strong that it's carrying it kilometres and kilometres, and the band is rising in the sky. So it's becoming a wider band of smoke, even though the fire itself is probably no larger. Where exactly the flames are is a little bit harder to see, but clearly still plenty of flames in there and plenty of action.
And helicopters still up using their monsoon buckets?
Yes, many of those. It's hard to say how many. I know at least 3. I can see maybe more. But again, the smoke is obscuring the view a little bit.
Yeah.
And people are just starting to arrive here, John. I'd say people coming in their cars and being directed into the centre. Just dribs and drabs at the moment. But
Ian, I'm just going to read a little bit of feedback out. I couldn't ask you to go across and grab someone as they arrive very politely, obviously not literally, figuratively, and just see if they want to talk to us for a couple of minutes. Is that possible?
Well, it'd be good, wouldn't it? But I got people here coming out of the swimming pool. Let's see.
Okay.
I'm just doing it, but no, it's difficult at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Thank you. Ian Telfer, who's live. So, boy, this is a really moving situation. Obviously, RNZ News is going to update you throughout the night on what is happening. Don't take any risks. If you think your home is safe, don't return to it. And if you are in it, if you think your home is unsafe or may potentially be unsafe because the wind is swirling and the flames are changing their direction, please get out or don't go home to it. Lots and lots of feedback coming in tonight and really lovely requests from people. And this sums it up. John, please broadcast ways for people to help. Donations, offers of accommodation and all that kind of stuff. So we will find out. I think the Mayor is going to set up, or the Council is going to set up some kind of donation line. People are desperate to provide accommodation, so we will find out. And once we've got the information about that, we will put that on the RNZ News website. It's lovely that so many people are asking, why has the government not called the Army in to help, says Joe. Well, I think those discussions have been taking place. This one, you can see the smoke coming from the direction of the fires as far away as Methven and Ashburton. People are saying, please stay safe if your house is at risk. You take your home with you in your heart. And this is a lovely note from Rob. Hi, John. Thanks for your piece on Steve Atkins, the helicopter pilot that lost his life yesterday. I was fortunate enough to meet him when he flew us out of the Canterbury backcountry 2 months ago. It was clear he was an exceptional person, positive, dependable, friendly and down to earth. Now we find he was even more of a person, a bitterly sad loss for many, says Rob. Prayers and love to Christchurch City and its people, says Marion. In fact, lots and lots of you are sending your love to Christchurch tonight. A Facebook group has been set up to offer housing to those evacuated from their homes in Christchurch. It's called Evacuation Housing, and already there are people offering up accommodation. You'll find that again on Facebook. The public group Evacuation Housing and the Rehua Marae in the city centre on Springfield Road in St Albans will be open from 9 a.m. tomorrow to help any evacuees. The Rehua Marae. That's been an extended version of Checkpoint. Lots of people, Phil, Vicky, Peter, have told us their stories tonight, and we are really grateful for the way people in Christchurch are so brave and generous in times of adversity in their dealings with the media. It's an extraordinary form of generosity. Thank you for being with us. On behalf of the Checkpoint team and all the people who have contributed tonight, we send our best messages to everyone who is listening in Christchurch. We hope that wind dies down and emergency services are able to get on top of those fires. Until 5 o'clock tomorrow, from all of us, a very good evening indeed.
RNZ News at 7. Kia ora, good evening. Ko Katrina Batten tēnei. The mayors of Christchurch and Selwyn have declared a joint state of emergency as more and more people flee a fire advancing down the Kashmir Hills. Christchurch's Civil Defence Emergency Operations Centre has been activated to help with evacuations. The Civil Defence Minister, Jerry Brownlee, says he's unhappy with how unclear things have been and says he doesn't understand why a state of emergency wasn't declared earlier. People who have left their homes are now being told to go to the Hallswell Library, not the Pioneer Recreation Centre, where they were initially directed. The Selwyn Event Centre in Lincoln is also an evacuation centre. The Prime Minister, Bill English, says the fires in the Port Hills have taken a turn for the worse this afternoon, and they're now disturbingly close to houses and communities.
The turn of events is pretty concerning, that you've got